Hey, y'all need a break? Listen to these stories from our /AskReddit, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What grossed you out so much in a relationship that you just left? I went away with my ex and saw his toothbrush for the first time. It had black mold growing on it and the bristles were so flat the toothbrush had a middle parting. I had a conversation with him about hygiene and told him to get a new toothbrush, but when I stayed at his house 2 weeks later, the cursed toothbrush was still there, so I ended it. Her breath was so bad I couldn't make out with her. All I could think of was, don't vomit, don't vomit. Edit, first date led to make out session, but alcohol was involved and either masked the smell or my horniness plus liquid courage just made me not give it a second thought. Second date we ate some super spicy curries and that either dulled my senses enough or again, my horniness, and lots of kissing breaks, got me through it and we made it to third base. My horniness prevailed. Third date, both of us just went right to my place for intercourse and her breath just really was unbearable. She went down on me and I couldn't perform because I was so devastated from her breath that I was just trying to not vomit. She wouldn't let me go down on her, which looking back on things probably was a good thing. TLDR, her bad breath made me nauseous and impotent. My horniness could not overcome it and that was the last we hung out. This one I went through. I later came to find out after I broke it off that she hadn't been to a dentist in years. She was too afraid. And when she finally mustered the courage to go, she had 3 rotting back teeth that had to be pulled. She would speak and sometimes it smelled like someone had farted in her mouth. She was so rude to my friends. We went out to dinner with them and she constantly made fun of one's height, something he's clearly been insecure about. I told her to chill and then she said my hairline is far back but no one notices because I'm tall. I broke up with her the next morning. I felt so bad for my friends but they're still in my life, thankfully. I had something like this happen. I had dated this girl for like 3 months and she was always so sweet. We go out to the bar one night and she has a little much to drink and start being an absolute ass to people. I know the owners and a lot of the locals so I am mortified. I apologize and take her home but she doesn't want to go home. On the drive she says she wants to come to my house, and informs me if she can't, she will call the police and say I'm kidnapping her. I was dumbfounded. I told her I would do her one better and drive her to the police station right now. She slapped me. Sitting in her little car I was trying to drive to get home safe, she slapped me. So I pulled over and grabbed her phone and called her dad and told him to come get her and I would drop her keys off the next day. She apologized many times but I just couldn't get over the insane switch that flipped that night and was never attracted to her again. When I saw his apartment, the smell hit me first, just smelled like dog pee and this strong wet musty smell. I couldn't be in there without the windows open. Piles of stuff everywhere, so much that it was spreading to the outdoor balcony, and Diet Coke cans on every surface. The carpet was so dirty you could see all around the edges of the wall a little brown accumulation, and the dog wasn't potty trained. While the poo would get picked up, the pee was never cleaned so it soaked into the carpet and I learned quickly that if I didn't have shoes on, I might get a wet little surprise soaking through my socks. The kitchen towel always felt tacky and greasy, he rarely did laundry of any kind, in fact I never once saw him do laundry except the one time I offered to for him. He even had a little gaming den, fortunately the dog wasn't allowed in there, but again, I could see it had never been cleaned once. Dirt and dust and stuff piled everywhere, cans and old plates of food left out. He told me once that he wanted to get a mini fridge for it so he never had to get up. I was adamant that he didn't. I don't care if it's his place, the next step after that is peeing in bottles. It was shocking, he seemed so put together on the outside, and then to see how he lived and this was after cleaning all day, yeesh. I don't know if that was more gross or the, women don't know what it's like to work, women can't be trusted, women this women that, boohoo comments. My now long since divorced ex-husband admitted to me, after a night of weeping, wailing and vodka in a desperate attempt to salvage our marriage via radical honesty, that he was so hypersexualized as a teen that he had done many suspect things. Many red flags were flown. He'd been a peeping Tom. He'd considered ing a jogger and on multiple occasions, he had effed his 9-year-old mare quarter horse. He took my catastrophic shocked silence as a chance to explain that he needed a step stool to get enough height for insertion. Suddenly, the dancer from the all-nude bar he'd been screwing was unimportant. She wasn't that bad, crap. I realized very quickly that I needed to have a friendly discussion with her for her safety and I did in fact forget all about my heartbreak. The radical honesty was, in that sense, a success. I had gotten to the point in the relationship where he didn't mind me in the bathroom while he used it. He took a crap and wiped once. Didn't even look at the toilet paper, then started pulling his pants up. I immediately asked what the F he was doing and how the F he thought one little wipe was going to do a damn thing, and he was like, I've never needed more than one, look. Then wiped again, probably expecting nothing to be there. There was a lot there. I don't know, I guess the idea of him just carrying on with his day with crap regularly caked up in his ass painted him in a different light for me. Wasn't ever able to reignite the attraction. Probably should have been the person-sized pile of garbage in his room that made me reconsider, but I had further limits than most, I suppose. Dated a guy who said even the smell of mint would make him gag. Mint anything, ice cream, gum, toothpaste. So yeah, he didn't brush his teeth. Wouldn't hear a bar of it when I said there were non-mint toothpastes on the market. I realized after over 6 months together that he was just generally unhygienic and had a specific hang-up about brushing his teeth. He told me he had memories of his mother holding him down to forcefully brush his teeth as a child because he hates mint so much. But I have to wonder if it was always about the mint, or actually the fact that the taste of mint was the most tangible part of that childhood trauma. Took an old girlfriend to a Super Bowl party with my family. We leave, she asks me if I've ever messed around with my niece. Ghosted her quickly. When she was so insistent about not using a condom during intercourse, and when we were just going about our daily lives, she would constantly talk about how much she's always wanted kids all for herself. We were 18 at the time. I left her in the dust so quick. When they sent me videos of them cutting themselves cause I accidentally fell asleep for 2 hours and they were convinced I just stopped liking them and they wanted to kill themselves. Cause I took a nap. Big F no for me, man. Asked me had I ever attempted to seduce my stepdad, who had been in my life since I was 8. I was 18 at the time. I just looked at him in bafflement and horror before asking him had he ever attempted to F his adopted sister? He responded with disgust and yet still couldn't see that he had asked me something horrific. Same dude also said he didn't think anyone was really bisexual, they're just cowards who won't properly come out. When I asked him had he forgotten that I'm a bisexual woman, he smiled and said, "Nah, I'll F you straight." All this said within a month of us getting together. He's an ex for a reason. At a party with some of my closest friends and a lot of their mutuals, one of our friends who had recently been diagnosed with cancer was sharing some of his experience with chemo. My then girlfriend interrupted him by saying, "Oh come on, it's not that big of a deal. We all probably have cancer. Moles are usually cancer. Look, I've probably had cancer in all these places on my arm where I had moles removed." There were a lot of other issues that led to it, but I broke up with her a few days later. I was just so appalled by her lack of self-awareness. These were my friends who I had known for a decade, and she'd only known them for about a year. And we were in a small group of maybe 9 people, most of whom she hadn't even met before. It disgusted me and I couldn't spend the rest of my night near her. Ended it within the week. Reminds me of my ex-sister-in-law who had kidney cancer and was scheduled for chemo. She was desperate and having something of an emotional breakdown. Her sister's boyfriend was a healer. He gave her reassurance and said, "I've had kidney cancer too, and I healed myself with positive thought." She canceled her chemo, then he persuaded her to drive to see him once a week, 7-hour round trip each time, paid him a lot of money for him to ring some temple bells and chant, etc. Until one day she collapsed in pain, pissing blood, rushed to the ER, kidney removed within a couple of days, thank goodness it hadn't metastasized. When she came to her senses and confronted him, it turned out he'd never had kidney cancer, it was a metaphor. 15 years later the sister is still with that effing guy, and they are estranged from the rest of the family. We were hanging out at his house just chilling. He started to tickle me, and kept tickling me, and pinned me down and kept tickling me. Since I was laughing he thought it was okay. He spent about an hour tickling me till I cried and peed my pants. Then acted like I was overreacting. I just left my boyfriend of 10 months because he purposely screams during an argument so that people in his family will hear everything going on. It is his way to make me feel vulnerable and weak. Says things like, "Good, I want them to hear, I want them to know how psycho you are," when I'm persistently trying to end the argument and speak civilly. It was like a temper tantrum. Needless to say I left him yesterday. I was dating a girl when I was younger, she seemed nice and she had 2 small cats. One weekend I went to visit her and the cats weren't there, I asked her where they were, she told me they had gotten annoying, and so she put them in the car and drove to an abandoned bush area and left them. I faked an emergency at home, we lived about a 2-hour drive apart, left and broke up with her when I got home. Should have peed on her doormat on the way out to keep other cats away. Crying if I didn't have intercourse with him. Needing to be touching me constantly and eventually threatening to kill himself when I tried to break up with him. The guy texted and called for about 5 years afterwards, we dated for like 2 months. Didn't leave immediately when I was told this, but fairly soon after. She told me that she never cleaned up cat barf. She'd simply wait and let the dog eat it. Once the dog got too old/deaf/blind, she would lead the dog to the cat barf. Big nope for me. I was on a girls' trip I booked months in advance, a festival. He showed up there and brought one of the other boyfriends with him. I hated it but couldn't do anything but just accept his arrival. Got into a fight with the girls, he did not involve them either with this surprise. Later on, he kept doing this. Internship abroad, he shows up, forcing my roommate to leave. Dinner one-on-one with my dad, he shows up. I moved out because I needed space, he books a trip we cannot cancel. Broke up with him afterwards. He kept showing up at my hometown and even work. It has been 2 years and he texted me congratulations when I got married last year, but all I can feel is anxiety about his control issues. He convinced me to stay on Skype while I was sleeping. And he'd literally talk to me if I moved an inch thinking I was waking up. What finally got me to stop was when I caught him saying to me in my sleepy days was, that if he was next to me in real life, he'd stick his D in me, while I'm sleeping, and put much emphasis into doing so without my consent, because you can't say no. And ride me all night long. I finally got the courage to ghost him after hearing that. She was almost perfect for the first year that we dated. To the point to where I considered marriage with her. Our leases were up around the same time so we decided to move in together. Not even a month into us living together, she turned into a completely different person. She started instigating fights over very small things, blowing things out of proportion, accusing me of cheating when I'd have to work late. She'd pack her things to leave, but would never actually leave, just like the fight of me trying to talk her down. One day we were at a movie store in the mall together and I was looking at the back of a movie at the description. She accused me of ogling over the actress that was on the movie case. Stormed out of the movie store, left the mall, left me there with no ride home and didn't answer her phone. I got the F out of there as soon as I could. After I left, she'd text me paragraphs of apologies begging me to take her back or she'd kill herself. Sent me pictures of her cutting herself. I had to have her number blocked. She then started stalking me at work and coming to my friend's house that I was staying at. Ended up getting a restraining order against her. Went on a few dates with a guy, was on a FaceTime call with him cooking and asked him to show me his skills and what he was making. Flips the camera to show raw chicken just sitting in the sink next to dirty dishes as he seasoned it. My brain checked out after that one. He and I had just started dating, he was going through a divorce and was low on money. I invited him up for a romantic weekend, paid for a hotel room and food, helped him with gas money, and even gave him some grocery money for the next week. All my treat, I was happy to help, and I didn't ask for repayment, just asked him to get dinner, or something, next time we saw each other, if he could. He had the absolute audacity to text me, when he got home, that I was irresponsible with money. Edit, well crap, this blew up. To clarify a few things, I had enough of my own money that I was comfortable spending it on a romantic weekend for the both of us. I made it clear to him that I didn't expect anything in return, except if he wanted, and was able, to pay for dinner or whatever the next time we saw each other. He did go through with the divorce, and last I knew, he was seeing someone else, but I can't be sure since he has me blocked on social media like the pussy he is. No hard feelings though, this was a couple years ago and thankfully we weren't seeing each other long enough for me to be emotionally invested in the relationship. Very much a bullet dodged. You need a cute job, no need for you to worry and work so hard. I love my job. I'm a nurse. Same guy, after confiding in him the real reason I don't want biological children, my fear that I'm infertile, severe endometriosis from a fairly early age, my cousin also has it and she went through a lot of heartbreak trying to conceive, many miscarriages and lots of IVF cycles, and I don't think I could handle that emotionally, he replied with, well, you're just going to have to try really hard then. As if it's an issue of willpower or something? As if some people just aren't working hard enough to have a baby? I have told this story about a dozen times on Reddit. The first night I slept at my ex's apartment. I woke up in the middle of the night to an extremely loud scraping noise. It was inside my ear. A roach had crawled into my ear and was scraping against my eardrums with its legs/antennas/whatever. It was the most awful feeling I've ever experienced. I used tweezers to try to get it out and when I pulled them out after a few times, only half the roach came out. Had to go to the ER to get the rest out and get antibiotics. I had a horrible ear infection for a couple of weeks. The worst part was her saying, it happens to my son all the time. Like what the F? Found out she had wrappers and trash under her bed. Clean your effing house. It has literally haunted me and given me PTSD. When I'm sleeping, if I hear the slightest noise I jump up and swat uncontrollably around my head/ears. My wife was shocked as F the first time I did it when we were dating, but since I told her she fully understands lol. I used to mess around with this girl for like a month or so. One day I go over to her place just to chill, and then out of nowhere she tells me how a few years ago her cat got pregnant and that she strangled the kittens when they were born. Edit, she also told me how she grabbed some of the kittens by their torso and slammed their heads against the wall. Worst part is that she was smiling as she was telling the story. Annoyingly turning away in bed. Because I was crying. Due to the pain of my kidney infection. For which I later had to go to the hospital for because, duh, it was a kidney infection. Nah man, I don't understand how people can be annoyed about their loved one's acute pain instead of alarmed. I got out of that relationship pretty quick after that. My now boyfriend oftentimes cares more of my health than I do, and tells me to go to the doctors if I have pain. I once dated a girl that tortured hamsters. She got arrested when I called police. I didn't even give her the honor of the text. Just called the cops, gave my testimony in court, and continued with my life. When I met the parents of my ex-boyfriend. His mom was quiet all the time, never saw that woman smile even a little, and hushed around the house like a ghost, her head always down. His father was an asshole, who was super loud and told anyone what he had to do, while he himself did nothing at all. So when we left his parents' house, he looked at me with bright eyes and said, "My parents have the perfect marriage. My mom is such a good wife. She never does anything for herself, the perfect woman. All I wish for is that you will be such a good wife to me one day." Really, I was just like nope. Nope. Nope, got into my car, drove off and never saw him again. It should have been the time that he fell out of the shower in our Airbnb and was extremely agitated with me afterwards for not trying to save him from falling out. He was 6'2" and 230 pounds, I was about 105 pounds and I'm just under 5 feet. Not sure what I was supposed to do. It also should have been when he pitched a fit and deleted his Facebook event for his 40th birthday, because not enough people had enthusiastically responded to it in the 3 hours it was up. It also should have been when he booked a 4-seat reservation at a theme restaurant and invited one of his close girlfriends, but told her she couldn't bring a guy and had to bring another girl. We weren't quite finished with our drinks when our seating time had run out, and went to sit at the communal table to finish and leave. He chatted with his friend and the girl she brought, with his back to me. He didn't even notice when I messaged him a picture of the back of his shirt because I was trying to make a point. What it was being on vacation with him and having him sneer at me for tipping too much, $5 Canadian to his suggestion of 50 cents. You're going to skew the economy here, this is why you live paycheck to paycheck. Dude literally lost any glamour charm on him at that moment and looked like nothing but a slimy human lizard freak after that. Never been more repulsed and am still not quite over how disgusted I am with myself for dating him even a few years later. Thanks for watching. Do you have any similar stories to share? Don't be shy and drop them in the comments below, then like and subscribe for more Reddit videos.